guys, welcome back to another episode of Afternoon Boost. Joining us today is Melissa Petersman, also known as the Diesel Queen on Instagram, where she has over 500,000 followers. Melissa has spent several years as a heavy equipment mechanic at John Deere, and now she started her own shop, and she's currently working on a third gen, which we've sent her a couple things for, including a fat shaft and some injectors. What can you tell us about this third gen, Melissa?
The name of the turbo makes me laugh every time.
So do you know how we even came up with that name?
Because you're guys, that's how you came up with that.
Well, so when we came up with this in like 2003 or 4, when we first came out with this turbo, the shaft is actually fatter and it's bigger. It's bigger than the normal S300 shaft. So my first t-shirts that we came up with were you had the got milk. We said got fat shaft across here, but we did got fat shaft, and then it had our logo on the back. And we went to a local drag strip, and I passed out like 50 or 60 shirts. And like the day after that, we had like 100 people show up at our shop wanting to buy that shirt. We didn't even have those shirts. So that's how it just kind of stuck. It was kind of fun. And yeah, it's been an iconic turbo for sure for a long time. But now you have one.
Now I got one. It's nice and shiny, and it matches all the other shiny things on my engine, so it makes me happy. I'm a girl. The shiny and the colors matter to me.
So this truck you're working on, your 05, what's the story behind it? It was your dad's?
It was my dad's logging truck. He had a second gen that my stepsister blew up, and then he bought this truck from a dealership, and it was silver when he bought it, and he used it as a logging truck and a woods truck for years. He ended up blowing it up, and he took the head off, and then it sat in his shop in Walden, Colorado for like 3 years. And then he moved to Northern California to go log there. And he just gave me the truck. Well, he kind of traded me this truck for I had a white 99 1500 lifted on 35-inch tires. And I told him he could have that. And he gave me this, and it sat in a paint shop for 2 more years. And then I got it shipped here to where I live now. And I put a new engine in it. I rebuilt an engine and put a new engine in it. It's got a Hamilton Stage 1 camshaft. It's got 12 valve rods. It's got pistons that are coated and then shaved a little bit.
Nice.
I can tell they're shaved because it doesn't have the markings on the top of the piston anymore. And then I did all that. Other than that,
can you show us around a little bit? Show us the truck.
Yeah. Maybe if I can do this without showing you my disaster of the shop at the same time.
No, it's all right. A messy shop means a shop you're working in, so that's good.
All right, so that is...
Wow, that thing's pretty clean.
It's kind of dirty. Yeah, well, like I said, fresh paint job. Right?
Yeah, I like that. I like that color.
It was supposed to be gloss, green, and black, but I ran out of money. So that is... I wish you could see the color of the engine. It's kind of dark. But... right now I have the shit off because of those plugs, but let me see if I can.
You're always working on it. You'll never not be working on it. I mean, it's always a project, and that's
why. Well, I'm a mechanic, so.
Yeah, we're always looking to better it.
There's your guys' turbo. Nice. There's your valve, your intake manifold. This was covered. I was just looking at it today.
Yeah.
But... yeah, it has an AirDog fuel pump in it. I don't know where the fuck lift kit came from, but Synergy is supposed to be sending me a bunch of shit for that too. So nice. It has like the worst case of Dodge death wobble I've ever seen in my life. I've never.
Wait till you experience. Have you experienced it?
I've owned a Dodge pickup truck since I was 16, and I've never had a truck actually death wobble until this truck. And if you go and you have, like, I had my boyfriend, like, wiggle the wheel back and forth while I looked at it, you can watch the whole axle do this. It's bad.
Just need a new track bar. Well, nice.
Well, that's awesome. Did you you said you worked at John Deere, right?
Yeah, I worked for John Deere. Well, not John Deere specifically, but I worked for their dealerships.
Okay.
3 dealerships in my 7 years. I've worked at ag and construction. Diesel.
That's
my
that.
drill bit.
That's her dog chewing up everything. Every time she says that she hits record, her dog grabs something, takes off, and starts chewing it up.
Randy said it.
That's funny. So
But
you've worked at all these places. What got you wanting to work in this industry, being a diesel mechanic?
So my dad was a logger, as I've stated. So he ran his own business. He wasn't a mechanic per se, but he's a pretty damn good mechanic.
Yeah.
So I grew up around equipment, and I grew up, the highlight of my day when I was younger was at the end of the work day with Dad. Me and my brother each got to press the button on the tree harvester that cuts the tree down. That was like our fun thing. And then I got into high school, and I loved semis. I just always had a thing for diesel trucks and semis. And so I decided to go to Wyotech and actually got hired at John Deere. I just flung myself into John Deere, and they started me on cranes, on the crane side of that dealership, for Grove and Manitowoc Cranes. And then I went over to the construction side, and I worked there for 3 years, and then I worked at an ag dealership / construction dealership. They did both on large ag and construction for a few years.
I think I know why you have a messy shop.
Because I was a equipment dealership
I can hear Diesel back there messing it up.
I tell people that. I tell them that he's the reason my shop has shredded stuff all over the place.
He just wants to be included. That's all. So that's a pretty good a start into the industry. Honestly, that's pretty cool. And then you decided that, you know what, I can do this on my own, and I'm gonna start doing it. Start your own shop.
Well, so Diesel Laptop's been trying to hire me for years, and before I relocated to the eastern side of the United States, I wasn't ready to quit my job. I wasn't ready to give up I felt like I was giving up my career. And then I moved here, and in about 6 months of working in humidity, plus 90 degrees plus humidity in a shop with no AC, and working, they're the only dealerships around here, ag dealerships, they all work 6 days a week, required. And he called me up, and he's like, hey, why don't I hire you? Why don't we get you doing podcasts? Why don't we get you working on an engine and doing engine rebuilds for us to make videos?
Yeah.
And things like that. So I said, fuck it, I'll try it. And that gives me plenty of time to try and do my own shop and work on my own stuff and get my own thing going.
That's awesome.
So I've been doing it for about 2.5 years. So
that's cool. Well, that's super awesome.
What would you say to inspire other women in the industry? Because there's not a whole lot of, girls and women that mechanics.
I would tell them that if you think you're too small for the job, I was 115 pounds for the majority of my career, and the button on the crane doesn't take much strength to push. It's not that hard. Like, I love the heavy. I would actually suggest the heavy equipment industry. The automotive industry, I actually think requires more physical strength, because a lot of it is made to be, it's not as designed to be lifted using tooling.
Yeah.
For lifting it, I guess, is the right way to put it. Because equipment, most of the components are so heavy and so big, the big guy in the shop's not lifting it.
Right.
So you don't have to worry about it. They have all the tooling, they have all the things for that. The only thing that sucks is pounding pins with a hammer all day. That kind of stuff. But it's not as hard as it looks.
Like, so don't be intimidated by it.
Yeah, it's challenging, but it's challenging it's a puzzle. Every machine's a puzzle. Every problem is a puzzle. It's works your brain a lot more. You use your brain a lot, especially with new equipment, with all the electronics. You use your brain a lot more than you think you would. And that's actually a huge factor in being a mechanic. We're no longer just the dirt balls that people think we were, 20 years ago. And if you think the men in the industry are going to be scary, they're not. Mm-hmm. I have never, besides with the exception of online people, I've never ever had an issue with men in the industry ever.
Nice.
I've never been disrespected. I've never had an issue with getting hit on. I've never had an issue with, inappropriate behavior. I've never had an issue with any of that. If anything, they try to help you too much because they, a lot of times the men they try to prove that they aren't sexist, and they try to overprove it by helping, which is, I appreciate that to an extent. It's better than the opposite, but for the most part, if you enter the industry with a good attitude and you don't expect anyone to hand you anything, and you do the work and you do the same work the men do, you'll be respected and you'll do great. And you're not going to get paid any less. I actually got paid more. By the end of my career, I was getting paid more than most of the men in the shop.
That's good.
The industry is the diesel industry is one of the very few industries, I think, that are very streamlined on pay for men and women. If you have the experience, you can do these certain jobs. It's more of a streamlined pay, and it doesn't actually matter. They care about your numbers. They care about your performance. They don't care if you're a man or a woman. They care about your performance.
So as long as you're a good worker, hard worker, and have a good work ethic, you can just jump in there and do exactly what everybody else is doing.
That's awesome.
That's some good motivation. Yeah. Well, that's some good information, and that's you've got some good insight on what you're doing. I think it's pretty awesome to has nothing to do with you being a girl or a guy or whatever, but in the situation of what you're building, I think it's awesome where you've gotten to. I think it's super cool, and I hope people see it. Whether you're a man or a woman and you're sitting on the couch and you see us talking about some of this stuff, just get out there and do it, guys. Just get out there and that dream or that project that you have, and start chasing it, start figuring it out and get it done.
Yeah, I agree. And there's a lot of resources out there for people, and especially if you want to enter the industry. If you're worried or you're scared, go to a dealership. They have all the programs. They have all of the experienced technicians. They have all the tooling. If you want to get a good foundation, if you want to throw yourself to the wolves, by all means. But if you want to get a good foundation and have maybe a little bit easier start, a dealership is a great place to start. They have all the resources and all the help you could possibly need to get a good foundation underneath you.
That's some good information.
That's good insight.
Yeah. Well, awesome. I appreciate you taking some time and coming on here and showing us around a little bit and giving us some good words of wisdom.
Yeah.
Where can all of our followers
in the shop for the truck?
Oh, you're good.
You're like good. That.
But where can all of our followers follow you? Everywhere.
My Instagram, which is verified, and it's the.diesel.queen.
Okay.
And it's verified, so.
And then you have some stuff on YouTube as well?
Yeah, I do. I have a YouTube channel. I have 200,000 subscribers on YouTube. I don't think I have an impersonation account on YouTube, but the entire project, like long videos of this project for this truck, are all on that YouTube. All the engine stuff, everything I've done to this truck is on that YouTube.
Sweet.
At least for the most part. Sometimes I get irritated about spending all the time trying to move the camera around, and I give up and I just work.
Yeah.
Because believe it or not, believe it or not, these people and my haters in my comments think that like, oh, you just love doing this, and it's just like you just want it's like you have no idea how annoying it is to be trying to do something and trying to work on something and then have to worry about the stupid camera.
We appreciate you coming on here today and sharing a little bit of your story with us, and we look forward to having you on here again and being a part of what you're doing, and we think it's really cool, and we appreciate all you do for us.
Well, thanks. I appreciate the help with the project parts and stuff like that, and before we press record, you were helping me with the diagnosis of the plugs in my head leaking, so I appreciate the help. I'm never going to be the girl that sits here and be like, I'm too good for help, right? That's the other thing is I know you're trying to end this right now, but that's another thing I remind people, and you'll never hear me shit on men in the industry. I will never shit on men in the industry unless I have an actual experience to back it, and I don't. Yeah. So I owe all of my knowledge and my learning and my skill sets and the building of my career to all of the men in the industry that either took a chance on hiring me in the first place and were there to help me and were there to teach me the right way. And I'm not even saying hold my hand. I'm saying the guys that sat there and be like, you need to figure this out, and you need to exhaust all your resources yourself before you ask me for help again. Come back in 30 minutes after you've looked at it again and exhausted your resources.
Yeah.
You know, it was that type of push and that type of influence that I needed.
Right.
You know, that the men that didn't want me to hold my hand because they wanted me to have my independence in the industry, and they treated me the exact same way they would have treated a man that would just started and didn't know anything. Right. And so I'll never shit on the men that in the industry, because they're the entire reason. I mean, every man in the industry that has experience, right? We all owe our beginnings and our help and our learning and our development from the people that taught us in the beginning. Yeah. And I'm no different. So.
One thing I was taught by my mentors, and you know, I've had multiple throughout my career, but they all say the same thing: never stop learning. The minute you stop learning, you die. That's it. You know what I mean? Yep. Never stop learning. So I always take every day with listening and trying to understand what's going on in not only the industry but life itself, and try to learn as best I can and keep my mind open. So
those are good parting words.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you again. And do you have something, Scott? Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say that was awesome. You got a great personality, Melissa. This is the longest one we've done yet, but it didn't seem long.
I think it's great.
It was awesome.
I can't wait to post it. It'll be good. So, well,
yeah.
See you later.
See you next time on the Afternoon Boost.